How dare you even show your face here? Look at her, she doesn't belong. Stop it. The champagne glass shattered at my feet, as 3 women surrounded me. Before I could react, I felt the sickening rip of fabric down my back. My beautiful silver gown hung in tatters, while they laughed like hyenas. They had no idea my husband was about to walk through that door. If you've ever been humiliated in public, if you've ever dreamed of the perfect comeback that shuts everyone up, you need to hear what happened next. Stay until the end, because the moment he stepped in, those bullies dropped to their knees begging, and what I did next shocked even him. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, because this story takes a turn nobody saw coming. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Alexandra, and 2 years ago, I married the love of my life. But here's the thing, nobody knew about it. Well, almost nobody. My husband Xavier is what people call a billionaire. He owns half the commercial real estate in this city, has investments in tech companies you use every day, and his name opens doors that most people don't even know exist. But me? I'm just Alexandra. I work part-time at a community center teaching kids art. I drive a modest sedan, and I buy my coffee from the same corner shop I've been going to for 5 years. When Xavier proposed, he asked me what kind of life I wanted. Did I want the spotlight, the fancy parties, the designer everything? I told him the truth. I wanted us, just us, without all the noise. He smiled that gorgeous smile of his and said that's exactly what he wanted too. So we got married quietly, just close family and a few friends, and we've kept it that way ever since. I don't wear flashy jewelry. I don't drop his name. I just live my life, and he lives his. And when we come home to each other, none of the rest of it matters. But our 2nd anniversary was coming up, and Xavier insisted on doing something special. He'd been so busy with a major acquisition that we'd barely seen each other for weeks. So when he texted me the address of this upscale lounge downtown and told me to wear something beautiful, I was excited. I went shopping, something I rarely do, and found this stunning silver gown. It wasn't designer, but it fit perfectly. And when I looked in the mirror, I felt beautiful. That's all that mattered to me. The night of our anniversary, I got ready alone in our penthouse. Xavier had texted saying he was running about 30 minutes late, some last-minute business thing he couldn't avoid. He told me to go ahead, that he'd meet me there, and that I'd love the surprise he had planned. I grabbed my simple clutch, took one last look in the mirror, and headed out. When I arrived at the lounge, my heart was beating fast. The place was gorgeous. All ambient lighting, marble surfaces, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I gave my name at the door, and the hostess smiled and directed me to the bar area. I walked in, feeling a little nervous. I'm not used to places like this. Give me a community center with paint-stained floors any day. I found a seat at the bar and ordered a glass of water. The bartender, a young guy with kind eyes, nodded and got it for me. I checked my phone. Xavier had texted. Running just a bit late, my love. Order whatever you want. Can't wait to see you. I smiled and put my phone down, taking in the atmosphere. That's when I noticed them. 3 women sitting in a curved booth near the windows. The first one wore a white dress that probably cost more than my car payment. Her hair was styled perfectly, and diamonds glittered at her throat and wrists. The second wore black, sleek, expensive, the kind of outfit that screamed money. And the third wore brown earth tones that somehow still look like they came from a boutique where they don't put price tags on anything. They were looking at me, not just glancing, staring. And then they started whispering to each other, their eyes still on me, and they laughed. Not a friendly laugh, the kind that makes your stomach tighten. I tried to ignore it. I sipped my water and checked my phone again, anything to avoid their gaze. But I could feel it, that crawling sensation when you know people are talking about you. Then the one in white stood up. She walked toward the bar, her heels clicking on the marble floor. She didn't sit far from me, just 2 seats away, and ordered a martini. Then she turned to me, her smile sharp. I love your dress, she said, but her tone said the opposite. Where'd you get it? Target? I felt my cheeks flush, but I kept my voice steady. Thank you. It's just something I picked up. She laughed loud enough for her friends to hear. Oh honey, we can tell. She leaned closer, examining my ears. And those earrings? Are those real? They look a little cloudy. They were real, a gift from Xavier on our first anniversary, but they were simple, understated. I didn't feel the need to defend them. They're fine, I said quietly. The woman in white, I later learned her name was Jessica, called over to her friends. Girls, come meet our new friend. She's so authentic. The other two joined her, flanking me on either side. The one in black, Veronica, looked me up and down like I was something she'd found on the bottom of her shoe. The one in brown, Stephanie, smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. So, Veronica said, swirling her wine. What brings you here? This place has a pretty exclusive clientele. I'm meeting my husband, I said simply. All three of them burst out laughing. Jessica actually slapped the bar. Your husband? Here? Sweetheart, I don't think you understand what kind of place this is. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, I said, trying to keep my composure. Stephanie leaned in, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Are you sure he's actually coming? Sometimes men say things to let women down easy. My phone buzzed. Xavier. 5 more minutes. I'm so sorry. This will all be worth it, I promise. I showed them the message without thinking, just to prove I wasn't lying. Jessica snatched my phone out of my hand before I could stop her. Let's see, she said, reading aloud in a mocking voice. 5 more minutes. I'm so sorry. She looked at her friends. Girls, isn't that sad? He's not even here yet, and he's already apologizing. What kind of man keeps his wife waiting? Give me my phone back, I said, reaching for it. Jessica held it away, laughing. What's the rush? We're just having fun. Please, I said, trying to stay calm. Just give it back. She finally tossed it onto the bar, and I grabbed it quickly, my hands shaking. The bartender caught my eye and gave me a sympathetic look, but he didn't intervene. I could see other patrons watching now, curious about the commotion. I decided to leave. This wasn't worth it. I'd wait for Xavier outside, or maybe just go back home and tell him what happened. I stood up, clutching my purse. Oh, she's leaving, Veronica said with fake disappointment. Did we hurt your feelings? I didn't answer. I just turned toward the door, my head held high. But as I took that first step, everything went wrong. Jessica, accidentally, knocked her wine glass, and red liquid splashed all over the front of my silver gown. I gasped, looking down at the spreading stain. Oops, she said, not sounding sorry at all. How clumsy of me! I turned away, trying to dab at the wine with a napkin the bartender quickly handed me. My eyes were burning with tears I refused to let fall. And then I felt it. Veronica's hand grabbing the fabric at my back. Your dress is already ruined anyway, she said, and she pulled. The sound of tearing fabric echoed in my ears. I felt the gown rip from the top of my back all the way down. The cool air hit my skin. Time seemed to stop. I stood there frozen, feeling the dress hang in tatters, barely covering me, and they laughed. All three of them, along with a few others who had their phones out, recording my humiliation, my worst moment for their entertainment. The bartender rushed over with a coat, his face red with embarrassment for me. I'm so sorry, he whispered as he helped me wrap it around my shoulders. I should have said something sooner. I couldn't speak. My throat was tight, and my whole body was shaking. I held the coat closed and started walking toward the exit, each step feeling like a mile. My mind was racing. Should I tell them who I am? Should I call Xavier? Should I just disappear and never think about this night again? Behind me, I heard Stephanie call out. Need us to call you a cab? Maybe somewhere more your speed, like a diner. More laughter, more phones pointed at me. I was almost at the door when it opened, and Xavier walked in. I've seen my husband in many moods, Loving, playful, thoughtful, intense when he's working, but I'd never seen him like this. He walked through that door with his assistant and 2 security men behind him, wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than everything in this room combined. His presence was commanding, powerful. The entire lounge fell silent. His eyes scanned the room and landed on me immediately. I watched his expression change in real time, the joy of seeing me shifting to confusion as he took in the coat wrapped around me, my tear-stained face, and then pure, cold fury as he understood something was very wrong. He closed the distance between us in seconds, his hands gently cupped my face, his voice soft and concerned. "Are you okay, my love? What happened?" I couldn't find words. I just shook my head slightly, trying not to cry. Xavier's jaw tightened. He kept one arm around me protectively and turned to face the room. When he spoke, his voice carried authority that made everyone straighten up. "I'm Xavier Steele," he said, and I watched recognition ripple through the crowd. "And this is my wife, Alexandra." The silence that followed was deafening. I looked over at Jessica, Veronica, and Stephanie. All the color had drained from their faces. Jessica's hand was over her mouth. Veronica had gone completely still. Stephanie looked like she might be sick. Xavier's voice cut through the silence like ice. "Someone want to tell me what happened to my wife?" Nobody spoke at first. Then the bartender, bless him, stepped forward. His voice shook, but he told the truth. He explained everything, the mocking, the phone snatching, the wine, and finally the dress being torn. As he spoke, other patrons nodded and a few held up their phones, showing they'd recorded it. Xavier's assistant was already on her phone, no doubt taking notes. His security team moved to stand near the 3 women, not threatening, just present. Jessica tried to speak first, her voice high and desperate. "Mr. Steele, this is all a misunderstanding. We didn't know. You didn't know she was my wife." Xavier interrupted, his voice dangerously quiet. "So that made it okay to humiliate her, to destroy her property, to mock her?" "No, we thought," Veronica stammered. "You thought what?" Xavier asked. "That she didn't belong here? That she wasn't good enough, based on what? Her dress? Her jewelry? The fact that she wasn't flaunting wealth like it's a personality trait?" Stephanie started crying. "We're so sorry. We made a terrible mistake." Xavier turned to his assistant. "Melissa, notes, please." Melissa stepped forward, reading from her phone. "Jessica Thornton. Her husband, Gregory Thornton, is a senior manager at Steel Industries. Veronica Hammond. Her family's company, Hammond Textiles, has a substantial loan through Steel Capital Bank. Stephanie Chin recently applied for membership at the Riverside Club, board of directors chaired by Mr. Steele." The 3 women looked like they might faint. Xavier continued, his voice still calm but with an edge that could cut glass. "Here's what's going to happen. Jessica, your husband's position will be under immediate review. Veronica, your family's loan terms will be reassessed by our team. Stephanie, your club application is denied, permanently. Please," Jessica begged, stepping forward. "Please, Mr. Steele. Gregory has worked for you for 8 years. We have 3 kids. I made a horrible mistake, but please don't punish him for what I did. You should have thought about your family before you decided to torment a stranger for your amusement," Xavier said coldly. Veronica was openly sobbing now. "Our company will go under if you call that loan. My father, he's not well. The stress could. Then perhaps you should have considered consequences before your actions," Xavier replied. I watched all of this unfold, still wrapped in the coat, still processing everything. Part of me felt vindicated. These women had been cruel and they were facing consequences. But another part of me, the part that teaches kids about kindness and second chances, felt uncomfortable. I touched Xavier's arm gently. He immediately turned to me, his expression softening. "What is it, love? Can I say something?" I asked quietly. He nodded and stepped back slightly, giving me space, but staying close. I looked at the three women who were all watching me with desperate, tear-filled eyes. What you did tonight was cruel, I said, my voice steady despite how I felt. You judged me without knowing anything about me. You mocked me, humiliated me, and destroyed something that was special to me. You did it for entertainment, and you recorded it to share with others. That says a lot about who you are as people. Jessica started to speak, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished, I continued. I want you to understand something. Even if Xavier hadn't walked through that door tonight, even if I had been exactly who you thought I was, someone without money, without connections, without power, that still wouldn't have made your behavior okay. Kindness isn't about what someone can do for you or to you. It's about basic human decency, and tonight you failed at that spectacularly. All three of them were crying now, heads bowed. I accept your apologies, I said, and all three heads snapped up in surprise. Not because you've earned forgiveness, but because holding on to anger would hurt me more than it would hurt you. But accepting an apology doesn't erase consequences. You need to learn that actions have weight, that words have power, and that cruelty always comes back around. I turned to Xavier. I'd like to go now. He nodded immediately, his arm going around my shoulders. But before we could leave, Jessica stepped forward hesitantly. Mrs. Steele, she said, her voice breaking. I know I have no right to ask, but is there any way, anything we can do to make this right? I looked at her for a long moment. Be better, I said simply. Be better than you were tonight. Teach your children to be better. That's all any of us can do. Xavier guided me toward the door, but as we passed the bar, he paused. He spoke to the bartender in a low voice, but I heard him. Thank you for trying to help my wife. Your kindness won't be forgotten. Then, louder, addressing the room. This establishment is closed for the evening. Everyone out now. People scrambled to leave, giving us a wide berth. The three women hurried out, their heads down, their fancy dresses and expensive jewelry meaningless now. When we were alone, except for his team, Xavier finally let his composure crack. He pulled me into a tight embrace, his hand cradling the back of my head. I'm so sorry, he whispered into my hair. I should have been here. I should have protected you. You couldn't have known, I said, my voice muffled against his chest. I should have been here, he repeated firmly. Then he pulled back, cupping my face in his hands. Are you really okay? I am now, I said, and I meant it. He smiled slightly. You know, I had this whole surprise planned. I'd rented out the private room upstairs. Our closest friends were supposed to arrive in about 10 minutes. There was going to be dinner, dancing, a slideshow of our 2 years together. I even had that photographer you love ready to capture everything. I laughed despite everything. You always were terrible at keeping things simple, says the woman who asked for a quiet life and then made me fall so deeply in love that simple feels inadequate. He replied, kissing my forehead. He pulled out his phone. Melissa, change of plans. Have everyone meet us at the house instead, and call Francesca. Tell her we need a dress delivered to the penthouse immediately. Alexandra's size, something beautiful. Tell her to go to my private account and spare no expense. Within minutes, we were in Xavier's car, heading home. His hand never left mine. You handled that with so much grace, he said as we drove through the city lights. I wanted to destroy them. I know, I said. I could see it in your eyes. But destroying people doesn't make anything better. Maybe they'll learn. Maybe they won't. But either way, I don't want to carry their ugliness with me. He brought my hand to his lips and kissed it. How did I get so lucky? You bought me coffee every morning for 3 months before you finally asked me out. I reminded him, smiling. That was pretty solid strategy. He laughed, and the sound filled the car with warmth. When we got home, there was already a garment bag waiting along with a note from Francesca saying she'd included 3 options. I chose a gorgeous rose gold dress that fit like it was made for me. By the time our friends arrived, I'd changed, fixed my makeup, and was ready to celebrate. The evening was perfect. Xavier had arranged everything at our home: catering, music, flowers, everything. Our friends, the people who truly mattered, surrounded us with love and laughter. Nobody asked about the torn silver dress. They just celebrated us. Late in the evening, when most guests had left, and only our closest circle remained, Xavier pulled me onto our balcony. The city sparkled below us, and the music from inside was a soft backdrop. "I have something for you," he said, pulling out a small box. "Xavier, you've already done so much." "Sure," he said, opening the box. Inside was a delicate platinum bracelet with a single charm, a tiny artist's palette. "For the woman who colors my world every single day, who chooses kindness over cruelty, grace over revenge, and love over everything else." I felt tears, good tears this time, as he fastened it around my wrist. "I love you," I said, looking up at him. 2 years ago you asked me what kind of life I wanted. I still want the same thing, just us. No noise, no spotlight. Tonight doesn't change that." "Good," he said, pulling me close. "Because that's still exactly what I want too. Though I might be installing you as head of our corporate ethics training program after that speech you gave." I laughed against his chest. "Don't you dare." We stood there wrapped in each other, and I realized something. The women who had tried to humiliate me tonight had actually given me a gift, though they'd never understand it. They'd reminded me why Xavier and I chose the life we did. Why we value substance over flash, kindness over status, and real connections over shallow appearances. The next day I heard through Melissa that Gregory Thornton had kept his job after a serious conversation about personal responsibility and family choices. The Hammond loan was restructured, but not called. Only Stephanie's club application remained permanently denied. Xavier drew the line at organizations that valued appearance over character. The video someone had taken was never posted. Xavier's team had made sure of that, though he never told me exactly how. I never saw those 3 women again, but I heard they'd become much quieter in social circles. Whether they actually learned anything, I don't know. That's not really my concern. What I do know is this. My silver dress is gone, but the lesson from that night remains. Never judge someone by what they're wearing, where they're sitting, or what they appear to be. You never know who they really are, what battles they've fought, or what strength lies beneath a simple exterior. And sometimes, just sometimes, the person you're underestimating is married to someone who will move heaven and earth to protect them. But more importantly, sometimes that person doesn't need protection at all. They just need a moment to show their own strength, their own grace, and their own power. Because real power isn't about money or connections or who you know. Real power is choosing kindness when cruelty would be easier. It's offering forgiveness when revenge would be simpler. It's walking away with your dignity intact, even when everything else has been stripped away. That's the lesson I learned the night my dress was torn and my husband walked through the door. And that's a lesson I'll carry forever. And that's how 3 bullies learned the hardest lesson of their lives. Sometimes karma doesn't wait. It walks through the door in a perfectly tailored suit. If this story resonated with you, smash that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Drop a comment telling me, would you have handled it with grace like I did? Or would you have wanted even more revenge? Subscribe because I've got more unbelievable true stories coming your way. Remember, never judge someone by their appearance. You never know who they really are. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.